All right, everybody. It's official Angular 9 release party time. How's everyone doing?
Woo.
Good.
Good.
All right.
Very good.
Good. So let's walk through who's here. So you've got I'm Aaron Frost. I'm one of the organizers of NgConf, and we have Yvonne Allen. Say hello.
Hi.
Yvonne is a community member. She's a presenter. She's fantastic. She's a lot of fun. We have Shai.
Hey, this is Shai Resnick. Hello, I'm here with you,
Yeah.
and I'm from testangular.com and Hires.io.
Yeah. We've got Owen.
How's it going, everyone?
Yeah. Owen's everyone's friend. He's a man of few words. And then we also have Stephen Fluin from the Angular team.
Hello, everyone.
Yep. And we've got Igor as well. So if you're not familiar with these people, they're good people to go follow on Twitter. So head over there and follow them. All right. So we're here because you guys dropped V9 yesterday.
We did.
How was that?
Scary and a big relief.
Yeah. I mean, technically, in some ways, you've only been working on V9 since V8 release, but in other ways, you've been working on V9 for years, right? So it's kind of, there's a bit of a duality and that makes V9 kind of unique. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Talk to us kind of about that a little bit, because we've all watched it and it's been exciting, but also frustrating. Talk to us about it from the inside, because we're all on the out.
Yeah, so I mean, how it's worked just technically is normally we have a 6-month release train. And so if a feature can't make it onto the train, it doesn't go out as part of that 6-month release. But at the same time, we knew that we needed to do these kind of big refactorings under the hood of Angular. That's what we call Project Ivy, where we kind of rewrote our compiler and runtime. And those couldn't fit into a single release. And so while there's a lot of features that we started and finished during the 9.0 cycle here, there's a lot of work that we've been investing for years now actually into. And finally seeing that come to fruition and seeing people able to use it, kind of having that be the default for the entire community, it feels good.
Yeah, we started working on Ivy back in fall of 2018. Is that right?
So that's,
Right.
what is that? Is that a year and a half?
No. So in 2017.
I was going to say, it's been at least 2 years.
It's more than 2 years of work.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of engineer work. In the meantime, we released what we could as things that make Angular better incrementally. So 2017 was like Angular 5 or 6, something like that. So since then, we had several major releases, and those major releases contained features that were building up to Ivy, but were not Ivy itself. And version 9 is where we took the new compiler, we took the new runtime, and plugged it into the rest of the system.
Awesome. So that's a lot of. I mean, Ivy's been out. Ivy's been in Angular for months. Like I could have used it in V8, right? Like you guys. It's not like you've been holding it back. You've been releasing it incrementally, yeah?
Yeah, but it was behind a flag, and you had to opt into using it. With version 9, it's there by default, and everybody's using it. It's the primary compiler and runtime pipeline.
All right. And so you guys, you kept the API surface whole. Like, so the API, the outside that we see, the crust is still the same, but the inside is different, right? It's a different gooey chocolate center of this Angular, right? And tell us about how confident we can be you guys didn't mess anything up. Like, because that's a big question. There's thousands of apps at Google. I know you made all those tests pass, right? Like, but I know that. Tell everybody there's 900 people on this live event. Tell us all, how do we know that internal change didn't break the API surface?
We made it super easy for you to try and tell for yourself. So just give it a spin and you'll see. We spent the last year testing and ironing out backwards compatibility issues, creating automated migrations. So when you say that Ivy is fully backwards compatible, it's not quite true, because there are actually certain changes. And
Okay.
those fall into two categories. One is intentional changes where the previous behavior was buggy and nobody was depending on it. And the way we know that nobody was depending on it is we surveyed GitHub and all of the internal applications, and we were able to fix those bugs. And then the second category is where the previous behavior was incorrect or not ideal, and we needed to change it, in which case we created automated migration to get people from the old behavior onto the new one without them having to do anything.
Gotcha.
So if you run ng-update, which is the recommended path to get on Ivy, we will actually execute many migrations on your project that will tweak your project just enough to make it fully compatible with Ivy.
And I mean, I don't think we ever guarantee compatibility. If you look at the last few weeks and months, you'll notice we cut a few more RCs than we normally do. Just because
What RC did we end on?
We care so much about getting this right. I mean, more than the last year of work on Ivy has been almost exclusively dedicated to compatibility with the ecosystem, because we want the vast majority of Angular developers to just switch over and not really even know that anything's changed. It just gets a little bit better. And that kind of embodies the same spirit that we had with 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we even though it's like one of the bigger changes that we've ever made, we work really hard to make sure it's as compatible as possible. And I mean, there will be bugs. If you find the bugs, file them. We want to fix them. This is kind of how we operate.
Can I say something? I want to say something. First of all, I just want to say that I personally, and I know a lot of people are super, super proud of you for like doing this enormous thing, right? Like it's, I don't know how did you have, like how you had the mental powers and like the, the amount of stress of building such a like big change without breaking anything on the surface. I think it's one of the largest challenges that like the amount of people that are depending on Angular is enormous. So first of all, congrats, and I want to clap and send you a lot of love. And
Thank
so
you.
I wonder what like in recent, I don't know if you asked that already, but in like the last 2 months or 3 months, what were like the the stuff that was preventing you from releasing it? Maybe you answered that already, or I didn't listen.
No, we haven't talked about that a ton. I'll say the last big hurdle that we overcame was actually regarding style. So in Angular, we have all these really cool ways of binding to styles, binding to classes. And historically, before in View Engine, how that worked is it was kind of the last change wins. And that worked. And what ended up happening was lots and lots of people depend on that. Lots of people kind of rely on this very weird behavior that doesn't quite make sense, where you could say, hey, here are the 3 styles I want, and you'd end up having one of them apply and just kind of blow the others away. And so instead of changing that behavior in Ivy, because it had to change as part of the reimplementation, and then giving someone another unspecified behavior, we tried to give people something that was actually specified and predictable so that you could actually plan and architect your application. But doing that in a way that didn't slow the whole process down was a really tough technical challenge.
So styling. So the styling was the challenge, like the
last one in a series.
Yeah, it was the last. It was the thing that surprised us, because the code was written a while back and was sitting in the Ivy pipeline, and what we realized just as we thought we were ready is that the performance of that code was not good enough. I wish I could screencast, because I could show you a crazy performance. Can I?
If you want, yeah.
Okay.
Now
I think there's a share screen
We
button.
have a crazy dashboard with like
you're on the spot.
crazy amount of graphs that show the performance of styling in Angular.
Just close your Gmail before you
Yeah, do you want to show it?
Yeah, I could.
Here, give him a second to pull that up.
Okay.
Well,
so
while
people are asking in the chat, where is the party? So Frosty, where's the music and stuff? And you know,
I
derbs.
haven't got my hat yet. Where's my hat?
Yeah, what is up?
I just
Am I
got
the only one who is dressed for the occasion? What's up, guys? Like,
No, you're not the only one with a hat.
I
Oh,
have
right,
a hat.
right.
It's just it's not a party hat. It's like a hat with a ball on it. That's my way of partying.
but the fan, it's like my fan above your head, so you know we're matching.
Chai brings enough party for the rest of us, I would say. So
Oh
the,
yeah.
The one thing I just want to say is that with the extra time in the RCs, I come from an enterprise shop, and it's appreciated to take the time to make sure that things are the way you want it first. So as much pressure as I'm sure you got, you know, people asking you, when's it going to release? When's it going to release? Thank you for waiting until you were just ready to get this first piece out the way you wanted. And I'm seeing a lot of comments too, and a lot of people on social today that are doing their upgrades without any code changes, some in as few as 30 minutes. So the upgrade story has been incredible too. So thank you for that.
Cool. I'm so happy to hear that, because Ivy could have been Angular 3, if you get the joke.
Yeah.
We made sure it wasn't. And it took a lot of engineering effort across many teams and many people to get there.
It kind of felt like that. So what would you guys, because there's a lot of people that was slightly frustrated it took that long. Some more than slightly.
Slightly?
Okay.
Okay.
Some more than slightly. What would you guys say to the people that were frustrated about how long it took to get that kind of stuff out?
I think we would like it to have come out sooner, but we're always going to hold ourselves to a quality bar and to the commitments we've kind of been trying to make to the community. We really care about seamless updates whenever possible or wherever possible. We care about kind of, we have this vision that we've talked about before of getting to a point where Angular is kind of evergreen, where you shouldn't have to know even when we have to refactor some of the internals. And doing that is just a huge technical hurdle.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know a lot of people worked on it tirelessly. So can you give a shout out to some of the people on the team that did the work? I know Alex and Kara and right, and Matthias and Mishko and everyone who is not here. Maybe we can give a shout out to all the people.
And even that's hard, because if you look at the blog
The
post
release notes,
there were over 250 different names of people that had commits in, and that's just committers to the repository. There was actually much more than that were actually involved.
So that's okay. We have time.
Reporting issues and stuff.
Let's go over each one.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It's the Silmarillion. Yeah, this is
It would
great.
be fair to call out anybody, because like really the whole team worked super hard. I'm so proud of the whole team and the community. We had so many community contributors and collaborators, GDEs helping to test things. So calling out just few would probably not be fair.
It'd be tough, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that release doc and I was like, man, that's so many people that get involved. And then also, Steven, you did call out Pavel though as a community member who was significantly more involved than most, it sounded like.
Yeah, because he's a little unique in that he works full time as part of the Angular team, even though he doesn't get paid by us.
So does he have like a sponsor that allows him to do that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so Pavel is part of our Enterprise Collaborators program, which is a program we started a while back where we invite corporations or companies to sponsor development of Angular. And Amadeus is a big airline software integrator and developer from Europe that took us up on this offer. And we've been working with Pavel as their representative for many years now, but very intensely over the last 2 years, specifically on the Ivy project. He's been pretty much working full-time on this project with us for over 2 years.
Wow. I love it. I met him. He's so crazy nice. He's like one of the nicest people ever, right?
He's like, to me, he's one of the perfect examples of Angular community members. because he's super sharp, but also very kind and cares about not just the code, but also people. So
Yeah.
he has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I'd like to know which feature are you most excited about getting out and seeing the community kind of grab hold of?
Whew. So many.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, Ivy is such a big change that picking just one is difficult. But if I really was pressed to do it, I would say switching to AOT compiler being the default compiler, even in development mode. It might not be significant to many people, but it's something that has been a problem or the root cause of many symptoms in Angular development, where some of the error messages look different in dev mode and different in prod mode. You would see slightly different behavior in dev mode and slightly different behavior in prod mode. And now that we are able to use the same compiler both in development mode and production mode because it's fast enough, which was the thing that was holding us back before, many of these symptoms, many of these issues that confuse developers will go away.
Gotcha. What if we took a couple questions from the live stream? You guys good with that?
Sure. Do you want to quickly check out the dashboard? I think I'm.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to.
They just have to put it up on screen.
Hello. There we go.
So it's not the prettiest of dashboards, but it's a dashboard we use.
I think it's pretty.
No, it's great.
It's very colorful.
I guess my UX quality bar is higher than this, but the most important thing is that we were able to make data-driven decisions about when we were ready to launch V9. And
do you want to explain what some of these charts are, what machines we're running these on, et cetera?
Right. So all of these graphs are different scenarios just for style binding in Angular.
Oh, wow.
Whether you're doing class binding or interpolation into class attribute or binding to styles in different ways. And we are comparing the creation of the binding, the update of the binding, and deletion of the binding. And we are comparing the view engine and the Ivy pipeline. And we're also looking at the initial performance during the cold boot when the application is starting, and also compare that to the runtime performance once the VM is warmed up. So there's a lot of data. I cannot go over it, but I just thought that just looking at showing off all these graphs, and this is just for style binding, is quite impressive.
Wow. I had no idea you guys had this much metrics on something as specific as style binding. And these are all performance metrics, Igor?
Yes. So this tells us how Angular is performing just in the area of style binding. So these are very isolated performance benchmarks running on calibrated machines inside of Google, and basically on every change, every data point on the horizontal axis is a change to Angular, so we can monitor how changes to Angular influence the performance. You see a little bit of noise there. It's very difficult to get super precise measurement because there's just so much happening, even if you have calibrated machines and isolated environment. But this is as close as you can get to really good understanding of performance in JavaScript, as far as we know.
Couldn't you just tell people just use classes instead of style binding? Could have saved you like 3 months.
This is both classes and styles. So when we say styling, we mean both class binding and style binding.
Like host binding to class, using ng class, doing the class interpolation.
They're correct using CSS.
Static CSS. Well, one of the things that Angular is trying to do is to create very rich user experiences, and you can do that only if you can change things in the display port of the browser, and you do that by modifying classes and styles in DOM.
I know. So I have a question here that I see. Could be revolving like your Ivy. So like in Angular 9, after looking at all your graphs and just what you've done with Ivy, what is your favorite feature, either with Ivy or Angular 9, that you enjoy working on, that you're excited that the community gets to see?
It's a
I guess,
silly
yeah,
one.
Igor and Steven, either or.
Yeah, no, I'll answer a silly one for me, which is that our CLI, we have this really cool NgUpdate command that looks at your peer dependencies. It tries to figure out what version you want to move to and make sure that package groups are moving together and applies migrations. Like NgUpdate is one of the coolest things that's existed in Angular for a while. And one of the things that we did as part of version, we landed it backwards into an older version of our CLI, but we made it so that instead of using the current version of the CLI to do updates, it uses the target version, which sounds dumb, but like this allows us to actually make changes and improvements to NgUpdate, which then you get right away when you're doing a migration like from 8 to 9 versus waiting like a whole major to get access to those improvements. So we think this is going to make it easier for us to continue to make NgUpdate even more resilient.
Essentially, we build a time machine when you think about it.
A time machine?
You go to the future to get to the future.
Oh my
You
god!
go to the future, you get the time machine, you come back and you apply it. Yeah, got it.
In the past, you would, when you ran NgUpdate, you would run it on the version of Angular you were on, and then that would take you to the next version of Angular. With this change, you're actually using the future version of Angular to get to the future version of Angular. And the important thing is that often we realize often we realize that there are issues with the NgUpdate experience, but it's too difficult to retroactively fix it when the CLI version and Angular version is already widely used. So with this change, no matter what version of Angular you are using, the NgUpdate experience will be the latest one we currently build.
Yeah. So if you look in our release blog post and the update instructions, that's why it tells you to go to the latest version of 8 before moving to 9. It's just so you're getting that most recent experience. We won't have to ask people to do that again. Now NgUpdate forever and ever will always use the latest version.
That's awesome.
There are a lot of temporal talk there. I think we like busted a timeline. Like in the past, what was, but what will be won't and wasn't. But in the future, what is ceases to be, and what was becomes the now. It's like, I know. I'm excited about.
We made NgUpdate better.
Okay, good. We made NgUpdate.
It's great.
All right, let's take some questions.
So before you go,
oh, by the way,
question was
okay.
from, Martin Raymond. Actually, I just asked him. I want to give him credit. That was Martin's question, but.
So we've had a couple comments about the Daft Punk. I know that Igor will play this song on like the 10-hour repeat and code sometimes. He told me that he does that. That's why we've got this song on.
Okay.
So
now my kids do too. So it's
just so everyone knows that's where this song came from. All right. Let's take a couple questions. Someone just asked in a good one about ESLint. Is that? I know that like TSLint died. Is ESLint in? Like, what's up with that? What's the plans for that?
I can check this one. TSLint died. That's so sad to say that.
No.
TSLint is wildly used by many developers, and it's working quite well. It's actually been used as the primary tool for linting in Google across all the projects. So I wouldn't say that TSLint died, but there are concerns about the future development of TSLint, and some of the signals in the community, as well as from the TypeScript team from Microsoft, are that we should be looking at ESLint as the future of linting of TypeScript code. Right now in Angular CLI, TSLint is the default option. We don't support ESLint. We are looking at ESLint. We've done some analysis. Minko Getchev, one of our team members, has already explored this. There are a few things that are holding us back. There are performance issues with ESLint that makes linting slower on large projects. That is a big concern for us. And also ESLint has large number of dependencies that you install during your npm install, which is undesirable. So we're looking through like these kind of blocking issues and trying to figure out, can we improve ESLint to get to the point where we could switch to it? We are talking to the TypeScript team to figure out, is that something that they will encourage the wider TypeScript community to do as well? We don't take these kind of decisions lightly. There's a lot of due diligence that needs to happen before we say use this or use that.
Yeah. So we've got another question from the community here. It's what's everyone's favorite feature from
Yeah, that's the one I
IVV8?
was telling you. That
Oh,
I took from.
Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, my
Yeah.
bad. We already asked that.
I want to hear what you guys.
Yeah.
What's your favorite feature?
Honestly, the one that you guys tried to release at the end, the styling stuff that kind of delayed the release a few extra months. I've really missed those features from AngularJS in Angular. Like I'm like, man, I really wish that Angular it was as forgiving and like as not, it didn't punish me as much as like more like AngularJS did when I did 3 or 4 different style types on like binding types on the same element. And so I'm happy you guys are focusing on that because yeah, that's awesome.
I'm really happy that for like 2 years we've been saying, okay, wait until Ivy will be released, and then will we have the features and the upgrades and all the shenanigans that we're planning to do. So that's why I'm most excited, because like rendering a single component and without like the need of NgModules and all that stuff. I wonder what, like, do you have any direction for a plan to make maybe stuff easier for the learning curve, easier to ramp up and start a new NG app? We just had an episode about like maybe doing Angular a bit more beginner friendly and stuff like that. So I wonder if you have any plans on that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have plans around that. Making Angular easier to use and simpler is one of the core things that we talk about whenever we're doing prioritization. But you have to keep in mind that it's actually challenging because we want to do this in a way that doesn't invalidate existing code or existing skills, existing knowledge. And so we have this kind of dual burden of innovating and coming up with kind of the better way of doing things without making everyone's skills obsolete and breaking the world. And so we've got a lot of ideas about, for example, making NgModules optional, so you could do everything just in a component scope. But doing those in a way that makes everyone's code look and feel the same is the harder challenge. So humans are, as always, are the much harder challenge. Like, so for example, we had part of the blog post and something that we've actually discussed a few times publicly is
humans are the hard problem. You
What's that?
sound like a Terminator. Humans are the hard problem.
Humans.
Humans are where all of the goodness happens and some of the badness. But like one of the features that we wanted to talk about, but we pulled it out of the blog post, is component lazy loading. So in Ivy, you can, if you want, you can lazy load just a component, and it does not even need a module. But doing so breaks your expectations about how components work and how modules work. And so we're not telling everyone that they should run out and go do this today, because we want to make sure that there's consistent, clear best practices for everyone to take advantage of, so that we maintain this property where right now we hear this all the time. If you go into one team or another team or one project or another project using Angular, it looks the same. It feels the same. You know what you're doing right away. And if we create a fork in the world where there's kind of 2 best practices for how to do something, we might lose that. And so we're very careful to try and maintain that.
Good.
I have a question that I saw from the. Oh, I didn't want to interrupt. You were saying?
I was just gonna thanks. I was just gonna add to that. I think I'll make a little more stronger statement. Absolutely, we care about those things. We couldn't work on them before Ivy because not for 2 reasons. We didn't have the brain capacity to actually work on those features, but also there were technical limitations in the view engine, the previous pipeline, that made those features very difficult to implement. The goal of Ivy was not only to deliver the features that we announced and were discussed in the blog post, but also unblock many of these future innovations. So now that Ivy is done, we have the brain capacity and we have the technical ability to actually work on making Angular easier to use. And we will do so.
And that's what I'm so excited for. So, okay,
Good.
sorry, Yvonne.
So I have one from the community by Abjay Hunty Harsh. It says, how does Ivy help with CEO? Should we just continue to rely on SSR for better CEO? Which I feel like is, that's really becoming very more prevalent in the community. So that's, that one. Exactly.
Ivy's kind of orthogonal to SEO.
Sorry, I was saying CEO, SEO. Yes, sorry.
CEOs care about SEO. So.
I'll say every time we make bundles smaller and Angular faster, that helps with SEO.
True.
But in general, the kind of types of answers and the type of architectures haven't changed with Ivy yet, so to say. I still think SSR and pre-rendering, which is actually, in my mind, one of the biggest, most exciting shifts in the ecosystem, are great ways of solving SEO problems.
And with V9, the Angular Universal came out with a pre-render feature as well, right? So to help with what you're talking about. So it kind of, not necessarily Ivy, but V9 has some more SEO friendly features in that Angular Universal pre-render.
Exactly. And just
that's awesome.
As I said previously, Ivy unlocks other possibilities. One of the features related to SSR is that it's going to be easier to have internationalization and SSR work well together. Previously, you had to spin up separate servers for each locale. With Ivy, that's no longer necessary. We haven't really discussed it because these things are not polished, but this is one of the things that Ivy unlocks.
Yeah. All right, I saw a question here. This one is one that a lot of people are going to have. I mean, you guys, I know you guys were, you were more focused on shipping Ivy than you normally are on a release. I know that sometimes you're probably already on the next release before the last one's cut. I know 9 was different, right? So now that 9's out, it's been out for 24 hours, maybe.
Almost.
Now you can finally focus on 10. What's the focus on 10? What are you guys thinking?
Breathe.
Yep.
Breathing is good.
Start working 40 hours again.
I think one of the most important things for us to do right now is to listen to the community and understand the impact that Ivy has had for other folks. Making sure people are able to get onto Ivy, making sure that all of the work that we've been doing lands successfully, not just for us, not just for the early beta testers, but for everyone that's using Angular. I think that's a really important thing. And then once we're sure Ivy is great and everyone's kind of moved past this refactoring that we did internally, then we can kind of start looking at, okay, do we remove view engine? Do we push libraries over to start using the Ivy compiler and ship different instructions to NPM? All those sorts of kind of cleanup, but bringing full consistency back to the ecosystem.
Cool. I know. I just kind of follow up with that. In V, sorry, Shai. In V9, I saw a ton of localization stuff. I was like, wow, there's a lot of localization in V9. Like as I went through all the commits, are you guys going to continue to really invest heavily in that feature for V10?
We're not going to commit to releases. You're not going to catch
sorry. No. Well, no. I know, but just adding features heavily, like, because I know you're focused on it. I'm not trying to commit you to anything, but just is that going to continue to be a focus?
Yes, absolutely. Internationalization is a big part of Angular. It's a must-have feature for most enterprise applications, and at Google, it's one of the things that we are absolutely required to make better and support. So we will be investing more into internationalization. I know that there's a lot of interest in runtime internationalization from the community, as opposed to compile time internationalization, which is the default in Angular. It's something we explored and enabled in Ivy, but we are not working on that yet.
We haven't packaged it and made it easy yet. I was actually shocked to see, I was doing a Google search a few weeks ago, and at least on my computer, if you search for IE10N, Angular is like the third result. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. Like,
it's because it's you. It's not for them.
Could be.
So I have a question also regarding like enterprise application and stuff like that. So it's about testing, because I'm a huge testing guy, and I'm really suffering from the long time it takes to run tests, like thousands of tests. So I wonder how Ivy and like Bazel and stuff like that will improve this situation moving forward.
One of the things that we released with Ivy and V9 is a new version of testbed. So testbed is an API that powers our unit testing story. With the new compiler, we were able to improve the efficiency of the whole pipeline that runs unit tests and get significant gains. I don't recall the numbers. I think you have them on the screen somewhere. But unit testing...
Like I saw 40% or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. I didn't want to make up a number, but it's a significant improvement in the speed of execution of unit tests. And this is only thanks to the new compilation pipeline. Additionally, one of the things that we haven't discussed yet, because there are a few things that we still want to polish before it's fully available to everybody. The new pipeline allows you to use AOT compiler for your unit tests and mix and match JIT compiled and AOT compiled components. And this will boost the efficiency of unit testing even further. This is going to come out in one of the future releases.
So it's not just for first of all, awesome. So it's not just for components, also services, like whichever class we're using, it should improve the speed, which is great news. Thank you for that.
Yep.
I'm seeing a question that I haven't ever really wondered about myself, but having used React, it does maybe make me wonder what you guys are thinking. So the question is, with Ivy, do you plan to make something to make creating presentational components easier? Like React has like these function-only components that it's just a function that returns VDOM. It's just a very stupid component. It just presents something, right? Are you guys road mapping, even if it's like years out, are you road mapping easier things, like maybe functional? I don't know, but so yeah.
I think it would come down to the simplifications we're trying to make around modules and components. We do have ideas around making a component simpler, less code, especially for things like presentation components. So we have thoughts and ideas there, but I don't think we'll be trying just to make presentational components easier. We're trying to fix the whole the whole stack, because we don't want a world where like you make a really simple like one-line component and then you can't go and add a style sheet to it, or you can't go and do other things to it. And so we want that kind of consistency, as well as the ability to scale up a component. So if maybe you start with just a template and then you scale up and add other things, we don't want there to be two different ways of doing that.
Gotcha. We had someone before this whole thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw one that was pretty good that I actually saw asked multiple times. So I'm going to ask it on the behalf. I can't remember who asked it. It's like a few people asked this, but they really want to know, like, what is the future of NgModule? Like, is it gone away? Do you have any plans for it as far as, V9 and further?
So I will say, and Igor, you can disagree with me. I don't think we can get rid of NgModules ever. There are every Angular app out there written to date relies on them for almost every component that's been written. There might be other paths, but like we have no plans to get rid of support for the existing way of doing things.
I'm trying to read between the head bobbles.
Yeah,
At this point, I've been doing software engineering long enough that never is too strong of a statement. That's why I'm
Never,
like, I don't know about
ever,
never, but
on my mother's grave, I swear.
not anytime soon. But what we are trying to do is to de-emphasize the visibility and need for NgModules in Angular applications and make components the first-class citizen, the primary building block.
What about the whole platform thing where like you need to query list children inside of like a view child and all the shenanigans, their content children, stuff like that, all the complexity there? Are there any, like, is there a way that Ivy help us improve that complexity, or it's not related?
Somewhat. We made the behavior of querying in Angular more consistent and less surprising in certain cases, because sometimes the behavior was, I'm trying to use nice words, surprising.
That's a nice word. That was a nice word, bro.
Very safe.
Good for you.
Safe.
So in Ivy, we made several changes, and this is where like making breaking changes and to something as fundamental as querying is very difficult and takes a lot of research. And people like Kara and Pavel and many others on the team, they spend lots of hours just trying to investigate what kind of changes are possible without breaking the world, but making it better. So we made several very important changes to the querying system to make it more consistent and less surprising. I do think that in order to make to solve all the problems that people have with querying and projection, we will need to add additional features. Those are not available in V9 yet, but it's something that the team is heavily discussing.
Cool, thanks.
Awesome.
I'm curious if you guys have any. I've seen some questions too about Angular elements with any changes that Ivy brings to that, or what it enables in the future for Angular elements that you'd like to touch on.
Sure. I mean, I think the general size improvements to Angular, anytime we can do that, that's going to definitely benefit the Angular elements use case, because you have to ship less of the platform to actually just render a custom element. But again, when it comes to Angular elements, Ivy was primarily an enabler. So we couldn't change elements significantly or meaningfully without Ivy landing. And so now that that's here, now that it's working for folks, now that people are using it, now we're thinking about, okay, what is the next step there?
Gotcha.
Someone asked this. I hadn't thought about it. I don't actually know the answer though, so I'm gonna throw it up here. Do you guys plan to continue supporting Angular 1 upgrade components? So like, I know Angular 1X goes into end of life in next June, like not this coming June, but next. Are you guys going to support the upgrade path still there?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was one of the things that made Ivy extra difficult, because not only we wanted to make Ivy compatible with Vue Engine, we also wanted to make sure that the upgrade path from AngularJS to Angular doesn't get broken along in the process. So yes, absolutely.
And someone asked in the chat, I saw earlier, and I tried to answer it there, but someone asked if they should be moving from AngularJS directly to version 9, or if they should go through versions 2, 4, 5, go directly to 9. That is the latest and greatest, and there is a supported migration path from AngularJS to the latest version of Angular, no matter when you're doing it.
Yeah, I just did it. It goes to 9. It goes to 9, just as easy as it would go to 8 or 7. So yeah, maybe actually 8 actually made it easier. So honestly, 8 was easier than anything before it. So it's actually getting easier to upgrade than ever. So
yeah, I mean,
see more questions in the chat about zone and change detection, stuff like that. Are there any plans to tackle that, or and is Ivy related to those in any way?
No, Zone is so for those that don't know, Zone.js is a polyfill or a library that patches the browser so that we are able to intercept all of the asynchronous activity, all the scheduling. Sorry?
You lost the monkey. It only patches. Not monkey patches. Okay, cool.
No, the camel patches. It camel patches the browser. Yes, it camel patches the browser, which allows us to understand all the scheduling in the browser and then know when we need to trigger change detection. Were you going to say something?
No, I like how you localized the term for Shy because he's over in Tel Aviv. It was a good use of localization.
Yeah, here we're using a camel patch.
Yeah, that's good.
So with Ivy, nothing about Zone.js changed. All of that stuff works the same way as it worked before. I think the questions about Zone.js are, what is the long-term plan with Zone.js? Initially, when we built Zone.js and when we integrated in Angular, our hope was that we could get an API like this into the browser and eventually remove Zone.js completely. Those efforts in TC39 failed, unfortunately. And with the latest addition of async await to the language spec, Zone.js is not viable long-term. So we know that there's a time coming when Zone.js will stop working. We still have some time, and we have plans to get people off of it before that time comes. But long-term, we don't plan on using Zone.js in Angular applications, and there will be additional effort that will be coming out to remove Zone.js from Angular applications.
Gotcha.
I saw something about the testing. I think one question was asked about it earlier, but I think there was a question about like Protractor with the new version 9. I guess there's like a lack in support for other browsers besides Chrome.
That's surprising to us, just because Protractor was explicitly designed to work across browser, and like that's how we do our end-to-end multi-browser testing.
Yes. I know Cypress only works with Chrome.
Yes.
Maybe it was about Cypress.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
They just changed that in version 4.
They announced that they're supporting Firefox and the new Edge.
The new Edge, because it's Chrome. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, probably read that wrong. But that is a good question that I did see. Like the one that I had, excuse me, that I was kind of, when I was working, with the previous company, where about the debugger API. Is that too much for this conversation? I know there were some changes from using NgProbe to like a different, like with Ivy, there's kind of changes in the debugger API. So can you kind of go into kind of a little bit about the changes to the debugger API for people who are actually, using it heavily?
So all of the APIs that existed prior to Ivy for debugging and writing end-to-end tests still are supported and still work. We added additional APIs for debugging Angular applications in the browser using DevTools. So just like for AngularJS developers, you're probably familiar with various ng functions that you could use for debugging Angular applications. We added those to Angular. So now if you are debugging an application, you can pull out DevTools, you can type ng and passing element, and now you can explore the component instance, you can trigger change detection, you can get hold of injectors, you can do other things.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So someone else asked, hey, does Ivy break the templates in a way that's going to bugger with UI automation? So Cypress or Selenium?
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
And you
we're not aware of any. It could be possible that some of the existing tools that are not primarily used at Google or in our test suite could have relied on some private APIs that were modified, in which case those tools will need to be updated. But we're not aware of any kind of major breakages or automations stop working.
And none of the major tools have stopped working.
So, and just a general testing tip, you should probably move to data test ID and use that as much as you can instead of relying on maybe more specific selector. Just a general tip.
I mean, one of the big things that came out in version 9 as part of from the components team was actually we're trying in so many different ways to make testing easier. And one of the ways we did that was we built component harnesses. So previously, to test your material on your page, you basically had to rely on implementation details. You were looking for specific CSS, HTML markers to find components, verify that they were existing. And you were basically testing the implementation of those components, which didn't make sense. And so what we've released now is test harnesses for our components so that you can test their behavior without relying on the implementation. So giving you a cleaner abstraction for testing. And my favorite part about that is that also as part of the CDK, we've released the same tools that we use to make our test harnesses so that other people can make test harnesses. So if you're building behavior components, you're shipping a library of shared code, don't make people test your implementation details. Give them a component harness or a test harness to say, hey, let me trigger the right sort of changes in the right way.
All right, next question from the community from Federico, sorry. He wants to know if is there anything new in schematics in 9?
We haven't changed anything to in the schematics APIs or nothing significant. We build a whole bunch of them for that, a whole bunch of schematics that facilitate the ng update process from 8 to 9. But the APIs themselves have not changed. I believe one of the things that happened as part of V9, unless it was before, now I'm blanking, was that we have documentation for schematics published on Angular.
Yeah, I think it was before.
Okay.
Was that?
Yeah, I think so.
Woo.
I'm not sure.
So
With
I would
8.
just come out and say it. Nobody knows how to write schematics. They are copying and pasting from the original.
Yeah.
Hey, we would love to make that better. It's in the roadmap. I just don't know when we'll be picking that one off. I mean, I guess one change we did to make to schematics comes from a new flag in NgUpdate, where you can now. Well, we've talked to a lot of developers, and we've actually flipped back and forth back in the RC period. But when you do an NgUpdate, we're applying a lot of different schematics. So we'll make like 10 different migrations to your code base. And while most developers want all 10 of those changes to come as a single set of changes on the disk that you can run like git diff and see all the changes, we wanted to give people the ability to understand what each schematic was doing along the way, what each migration was doing along the way. And so there's a CLI flag you can use with NgUpdate, and actually we'll write each change, or we'll write the state after each change to disk so that you could step through and understand each of the migrations individually. So that I think that's a really nice thing, and that will work kind of no matter what schematics are being executed across your project.
I think that this is a feature that is very crucial for especially large applications, enterprise applications. So, and I can confess I'm a control freak and I don't trust machines. So when we built NgUpdate, I still want to understand what the machine is doing to my application, especially large application. So being able to go through the log of all the changes that happened during the upgrade and understand this diff came out of this change, and this change was done because of this reason. I can see all of that in the commit message and have links to documentation. That gives me confidence that the NgUpdate, even on a large application, did the right thing.
I remember the first time I did this back in like November. I did my first 9 upgrade, and I was like, man, they really polished this NgUpdate schematic, because it was like, hello, I'm gonna do step 1. I'm starting step 1. Step 1 is done. I'm like, well, that was cool. And then it's like, I'm starting the second piece of the update. I'm like, all right. It's like, I'm done. Everything's successful. Next. And I was like, holy crap. It's giving me a play-by-play of what's happening in the background. Super easy to understand. I know it, like, it made sense what was happening. It wasn't like, I guess the black box is running and it will tell me maybe if there's a problem. It was, you guys did a fantastic job on those schematics. I don't know who did it. You should tell them it was fantastic though. So yeah.
Team effort.
Apparently it did it in a different like accent each step too, right?
Yeah, no, it was a team effort.
Yeah, that's a major freak.
Oh, top of the morning. Going to do a set go now. Yeah, it was fantastic, yo.
We had to use the schematics.
Upgrade the schematic. Yeah, it's fantastic. Really, really powerful, that NgUpdate. So yeah, it's a lot of good questions. I think we're kind of out of time, so I kind of want to turn it over to Steven and Igor. Talk about the future, talk about the community maybe talk about whatever you guys want to talk about for the last few minutes of the broadcast. Or just stare at each other awkwardly for the next 4 minutes.
We've got so many plans.
I just want to say one of you hates humans, one of you hates machines. So you are the perfect couple. So
No, I think you just cut us because we are so hesitant to make future commitments. After all the delays with V9, we're trying to be super conservative about what we commit to.
Whenever we say we're going to do something, we get in trouble. Like it ends up on the news blog. And we've got so many, like we get so much feedback from the community. We have so many ideas about where to go from here.
Yeah.
That like the prioritization exercise that we're going through right now is really hard because unfortunately you have to say no to some things, or at least not yet. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
But there's no way to please everyone.
One thing that we do want to acknowledge is that due to IB, we had to deprioritize many other things that we would otherwise pay attention to. And now that IB's out, we want to go back and see where we dropped the ball and what can we do to fix that.
Yeah, there's like a wall of issues in our GitHub repository that are fixed by Ivy, and so we have to go and like say, okay, this issue doesn't even make sense anymore because Ivy.
You only have 4,000 open issues, so
No, not 4,000.
Isn't it?
No, it's
Is
not
it 2,000?
4,000.
That was a lie. It's a lot, dog.
We have more issues than we want.
Yeah,
but we actually, I'm going to take that back. We are really thankful to be getting issues. It means the community cares. It means that people are using the things we're making. So more issues is better, and we want to continue our journey of doing a better job responding to them in a timely, effective manner.
good.
That's
is there
awesome.
a way for the community to help somehow with that?
So we have labels on our GitHub repository, like needs community help wanted, things like that. We have not been doing a good enough job of using those labels and tags. But I've actually, in the last 2 weeks, I've seen a bunch of people step up and start sending PRs. Like someone renamed AOT to AOT in all of our repository just to fix like an inconsistency that we had. And even those little changes are super valuable if it makes it simpler and less confusing for new people that are coming into the community.
So they renamed like lowercase AOT to capital AOT?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I issued PR. I deleted all the tests.
But also just helping with filing better, higher quality issues, or if you're looking at an issue tracker and you have additional information about an issue that you're looking at, providing that, helping with creating reproductions, that all saves our time. Because when we have to go back and forth, somebody files an issue, this doesn't work, and there's a random stack trace, and then we're like, okay, could you tell us about in which case what we're trying to do? And then we go back and forth for weeks before we get a reproduction. So if we can get the reproduction as in the first iteration, that shortcuts the whole process of dealing with issues, and we don't have to have issues open for weeks and weeks until we can actually action on them.
You know what I think will be super beneficial, but like completely time consuming to some, is to have like one of you guys from the Angular team sometimes have like a behind the scenes look at the API. Like I know for me and like a lot of other people who want to help, but they have no idea how the API works. They're just kind of like, it's very overwhelming because what we do is like super small compared to like what the framework actually looks like. And we would be able to help more if we understood how it works. And like maybe like once a month or something, like have a big behind the scenes look where you kind of explain like how this particular part of the framework works. And then if there is, and tie it to like an issue that's out. And then like, now that we have like a behind the scenes look, we can probably try to tackle some of the issues that we see on the list to kind of help you guys out. But like, I know I've seen it on Twitter many times. Like I tried to go through the Angular API and I'm like, my head hurts. I've seen a lot of those tweets before, and I'm like, that would help.
I love that idea. It's definitely something we've not done a good enough job of. But I will say one thing we started doing last year at Angular Connect, and something that we're actually going to be continuing to do this year in a big way at NgConf, is kind of revealing what's going on behind the curtains. Like we had really great talks on like how the compiler works And so we're going to be continuing to do more of those things about explaining not just like how does this affect you, but how do these things work?
Yeah, like those would be amazing. Cause like even for myself, I did do like a small little PR for Hacktoberfest, but like it was so small. I was like, I see all these issues. I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about here and how to fix it. But like if I just could get like, you know, like I seen it, Circle CI did it where they're like going behind the scenes and kind of giving you more of like, this is how this works. And now when you're doing your application, you can understand more about Angular and how to code in Angular if you knew like some of the gotchas and like what was actually happening behind the scenes. And it'll kind of elevate a lot of the people in the community to be able to make Angular even better, you know, community. And they can actually help other people when you guys don't have a chance. Like, oh yeah, you know, Igor and Steven just did this, you know, just this little talk, and I know exactly how to help you with this. You know?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay, I like it.
That's awesome. All right, so we're out of time. I want to say so much. It's gone through the YouTube comments, and we haven't really brought it up. Everyone's thankful. So thanks to you two. I know that Igor, you lead the engineering focus. Steven, you lead the DevRel focus. So you two are like pivotal on the team. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for all that your team members do. Please let them know. Like they probably already see it, but this was a very, very positive event. And so just want to say thanks. Good luck on focusing and narrowing down what you're doing on 10. Hopefully you get some R&R between now and like before you start like deciding what you're gonna bite off on 10. And but yeah, other than that, just thanks for everything you do. I know that when you started doing Angular, you didn't know we also are gonna have to manage thousands of rabid developers' expectations as well. So thanks for doing that, because million. Thanks for doing that, because that's not part of the job requirement, and you're doing a very good job at it. So thank you for that.
We always try and pass on the love, but I will say if you like, a lot of our team members are public. Send love to them. I know they appreciate. Like they don't believe us when we say it.
Yeah.
so definitely
show them the chat here. You have like 10,000 thank yous here, and it's easy with all the stress to forget. You know, when you're down in the mud, to forget all the love that comes from all over the world, and just not just only focus on what to improve and stuff. So really a huge thank you for taking on this like enormous mission for all of us. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If the community and the viewers want to do something cool, maybe just find a team member on Twitter and just send them a random thank you, because we often get individual negative feedback, and it's difficult to take that in. It's not that often that we get individual positive feedback. We get the positive feedback as a group, but not as individuals. So pick any maybe team member
with the handles that people.
Yeah, you can go to Angular.io/team or Angular.io/about.
We should have a Twitter list.
We should.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get on that.
Steven, write it on your test.
Cool.
Issue number 3081. All right. So, okay. To kind of end this out, I just want to say thanks to everyone asking questions on YouTube. That's great. I want to say thanks to Yvonne, Owen, Shai. You guys are fantastic at representing the questions that the community had. You guys are great at keeping it fun and keeping it lively. Yvonne's supporting NgConf. I wanted anyone on the live stream. I just want to say, hey, NgConf's 2 months away. This will be the first event where Ivy is new, where everything's all Ivy. So don't miss NgConf, whether it's on the live stream or you get a ticket and come and hang out with the team and with the community at the event. Don't miss it. It's going to be a fantastic event. It starts April 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, thanks to everyone involved, and hopefully we get to do this again. And until then, though, we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Do it again at NgConf.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.